It began in late October, when the leaves had already fallen, and the wind howled through bare branches like a mournful wail for lost warmth. My name is Anna, a 28-year-old elementary school teacher, and I'd moved into a small house on the edge of Pine Hollow 3 months earlier. After my divorce, I craved solitude, a quiet place to piece myself back together. Pine Hollow seemed perfect, a tiny hamlet of 20 homes nestled in a dense pine forest, with no one closer than half a mile from my doorstep. I thought I'd find peace here. I couldn't have been more wrong. The house was old but sturdy, with thick wooden walls and large windows overlooking the forest. I loved sitting by the living room window with a cup of tea, watching the sun dip below the trees, painting the sky in shades of crimson. But as October settled in, something shifted. The shadows in the woods grew thicker, the silence heavier. I started having trouble sleeping, a nagging feeling that someone, or something, was watching me from the dark. The first time I heard it was on a Wednesday night. I jolted awake to a sound, faint but distinct, scritch, scritch, scritch. It was like someone dragging something sharp across glass, slow and deliberate. The noise came from the living room. I lay still, holding my breath, my heart pounding so loud, I feared it would drown out everything else. Scritch, 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 steady, rhythmic, almost savoring. I pulled the blanket up to my chin, telling myself it was just a branch swaying in the wind. But there'd been no wind that night. I remembered staring at the motionless pines before bed. In the morning, I checked the windows. Nothing, no scratches, no marks. The glass gleamed as if the sound had been a dream. I blamed exhaustion, lesson plans, grading papers, loneliness. But deep down, a residue lingered, like grime I couldn't scrub away. The next night, it came back, louder this time. Scritch, scritch, scritch. I sat up, flicked on the bedside lamp. The light chased shadows from the corners, but my nerves stayed frayed. The sound was definitely from the living room window. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and forced myself to investigate. The floorboards creaked underfoot, each step echoing in the empty house. When I reached the living room, the noise stopped. The silence was suffocating. I could hear my own shallow breaths. I swept the flashlight over the window. The glass shone clean, unblemished. Beyond it, just the black void of the forest. "It's nothing," I said aloud, needing to hear my own voice. Just my imagination. But as I turned to leave, it started again. Scritch. One long, drawn-out scrape, like a nail dragged edge to edge. I froze. Slowly, I turned back. Nothing. Only darkness outside. I switched off the flashlight and bolted to my bedroom, locking the door behind me, though I knew it was pointless. Just a thin wooden wall and glass stood between me and whatever was out there. Morning came and I called Jake, the local handyman who'd fixed my roof when I moved in. He arrived by noon, a stocky guy with a friendly grin and calloused hands. "Something scratching your window, huh?" he said, inspecting the glass outside. "I don't see a thing. Could be an animal. Raccoons around here get nosy, or maybe a fox." "It's not a raccoon," I replied, my voice shaky. "The sound, it's too even, like someone's doing it on purpose." Jake shrugged. "Well, if it keeps up, I can put shutters on, or a camera, catch the culprit. Could be branches too close to the house, though." He glanced at the bare pines. "Guess not." He left, and I felt he didn't believe me. How could he? I couldn't explain it myself. The third night was worse. I went to bed, lights off, but phone nearby, set to record. I needed proof this was real. Around midnight, it started. Scritch, scritch, scritch. I hit record and lay there listening. This time something new joined the scratching, a low, raspy breathing, like someone was right outside, exhaling against the glass. I curled into a ball, too scared to move. It lasted 5 minutes, then stopped. I turned on the light, checked the recording, nothing. No scratches, no breathing, just silence and the rustle of my blanket. "I'm losing it," I whispered, staring at the ceiling, but I knew I wasn't. The next day, I drove into town to the only store, a cramped general shop selling everything from bread to batteries. Maggie ran the counter, a 50-something woman with tired eyes and a cigarette always smoldering between her fingers. I told her about the sounds, trying to sound casual, like it was no big deal. Scratching, you say? Maggie blew smoke through her nose. Folks around here talk about the pine watcher, tall, skinny thing with long arms. My gran said it comes for people living alone. Starts with scratching, testing you, then... She trailed off, taking a drag. Then what? I asked, a chill creeping up my spine. Then it takes you, she said with a shrug. Old tales, though. Still, you're out there by yourself, right? Maybe check with a neighbor. I nodded, but I wouldn't go to neighbors. The nearest house was a mile away, and I didn't want to seem crazy. That evening, I dragged a chair to the living room window, grabbed a kitchen knife, and decided to wait for this watcher. If it was an animal, I'd see it. If a person, I'd deal with it. The night was clear, the moon casting long shadows from the pines. I sat, staring into the woods until my eyes watered. At 2 a.m., it began again. Scritch, scritch, scritch. Closer, louder than before. I gripped the knife, stood, and approached the window. The scratching moved bottom to top, slow, deliberate. I looked down. Something was there. A shadow, tall, gaunt, with arms too long for its body, reaching toward the glass. I couldn't see its face, just a silhouette, but I saw the fingers, long, with crooked, claw-like nails, sliding across the pane. Scritch. The nails left faint white lines that vanished instantly, as if the glass healed itself. I screamed, stumbled back, the knife clattering to the floor. The shadow paused, as if it heard me, then leaned closer. I heard the breathing, harsh, labored, with a faint wheeze. "Who are you?" I shouted, my voice trembling. "Get away!" No answer. The shadow raised a hand, those black, gleaming nails scraping again. Scritch, scritch, scritch. The sound clawed at my ears, burrowed into my skull. I pressed my hands to my head, backing toward the couch. The shadow tilted forward, and I saw eyes, two dull yellow pinpricks in the dark face. They locked onto mine. I lunged for my phone, dialed 911. The line rang forever before someone picked up. "Pine Hollow Police, what's your emergency?" "There's something outside my window," I yelled. "It's scratching the glass, staring at me. Please, come quick." "Calm down, ma'am. Give me your address," the voice said, flat, almost bored. I rattled off my address, babbling about what I saw. The shadow kept scratching, watching. Finally, the operator said, "A patrol will be there in 30 minutes. Lock yourself in a room, stay away from the windows." 30 minutes. I dropped the phone, ran to my bedroom, locked the door, and shoved the dresser against it. I sat on the bed, hugging my knees. The scratching followed, louder now, echoing from the living room, the kitchen, even the small bedroom window. Scritch, scritch, scritch. I covered my ears, shut my eyes, chanting, "It's not real, it's not real." When the police arrived, the noise stopped. 2 officers, a young guy and an older man, knocked. I let them in, shaking, and spilled everything. They searched outside, flashlight beams cutting through the woods. "Nothing here," the older one said, eyeing me skeptically. "No tracks, no scratches. You sure about this?" "I heard it. I saw it," I insisted. "Nerves, probably," the younger one chimed in. "This area's quiet, hardly any wildlife. Call again if it happens." They left, and I was alone with the certainty they thought I was unhinged. But I knew what I'd seen. I didn't sleep that night, sitting with every light on, jumping at every creak. The next day, I decided to leave. I packed a bag, called a cab. While waiting, I sat in the living room, avoiding the windows. Just before the cab arrived, it started again. Scritch. One long, lingering scrape. I turned slowly. The shadow was back, closer now. I saw more this time. A long, hollow face with sunken cheeks, a mouth full of jagged teeth. Those yellow eyes burned, unblinking. It smiled. The cab honked. I ran outside, not looking back. In town, I checked into a motel, but even there, far from the forest, I sometimes hear a faint scritch, scritch, scritch at night, like it knows where I am, like it's following me. A month later, I never returned to that house. Jake told me the new tenant complained about strange noises, scratching at the windows. I didn't warn them. They wouldn't believe me anyway. But sometimes, drifting off to sleep, I see those yellow eyes and hear nails on glass, and I know it's still out there, waiting. Then what? I asked, a chill creeping up my spine.